What is IFC and what's your relation with the World Bank?
So IFC, which is the International Finance Corporation, we are called the private sector arm.
How much money to invest or grant in a particular country?
At the starting point, we have sort of target.
What does your day-to-day life look like?
So I end up today being a master of my own time.
What is IFC and what's your relation with the World Bank? I mean, I think I know a bit, but I'm not confident that I can explain IFC to and to my closest friends and colleagues. Can you give us that headline overview? What does
Sure.
IFC do?
So IFC, which is the International Finance Corporation, we are called the private sector arm of the World Bank. So what the World Bank basically does, what we call as World Bank is actually a couple of institutions. Their name is IBRD, International Bank for Reconstruction Development, and International Development Association. So, but we call it colloquially as World Bank, right? So IBRD is an institution which works mostly with middle income countries, where basically their job is to lend to government and government projects for a variety of developmental needs. It can be in the social sector for health, education, poverty alleviation, etc., or it can be in the infrastructure sector, creating roads, developing roads, airports, highways, and so on. So, so that's IBRD. The International Development Association is, on the other hand, is the similar work as the IBRD does, but it does it with the poorest of the countries, like in Africa or some of the IDA countries, where they are more giving more concessional financing to those countries, very long-term, 40-year loans, etc., so forth. But all to the public sector-led projects. It's for government expenditure, government investment. IFC, on the other hand, lends to invest in both equity and debt into private companies. So we are basically promoting private sector-led development of the same country, our member countries. So our board is the same as the World Bank. On our board sits the representatives of our member countries. So Indian Government of India has an executive director sitting on a board. Our finance minister is also has a governing role on the IFC board. And then we have our own management. So we have a CEO of IFC, which is, and IFC is run as almost a company. It's not really a company, it's a multilateral development institution, and it's formed under a treaty of the various countries. We have about 185 plus members. So essentially the difference between IFC and World Bank is not only the area of work, which is private sector, broadly speaking, private sector, government sector, but increasingly the World Bank is also being called upon to promote private sector. So in their advice and work with government, they are also being called on to sort of lay the policy ground to promote private sector development. But IFC does it more directly. So we do more equity investments into companies. So for example, in India, IFC has invested in 500 plus companies since 1956, since we have been created. We have India is our largest portfolio, about $6 billion plus of investments in India we have currently. It's both loans and across sectors. So that's what we are. Of course, we, as part of this, we also do our advisory work, and transaction advisory is one part of it, where we create investment opportunities. Apart from just investing in opportunities, we help create markets, we help create investment opportunities, and that's really where I am.
So IFC is, from my understanding, the DFI world, the development finance world. In the UK, we have something called CDC. I think they might have rebranded. I don't know which is where they give debt and equity to private companies. Is it a fair understanding that IFC is the global version of something like a CDC.
Not exactly, but yes, yes. Well, I wouldn't say exactly that, but yes, we do many more things than what CDC does. Or the CDC's name has changed. I don't recall immediately, but yes. But yes, a number of deals. For example, CDC co-invests along with IFC. So part of our activity, yes, we do similar.
Now, when you within the World Bank structures, when you are deciding whether it's IFC or IBRD, how much money to invest or grant to in a particular country, do you have that at the central level, or is that on every project is the same and we'll decide by the project, or do you have a budgetary allocation?
So basically, we at the starting point we have what we have sort of targets, right? So each region, how much $1 billion to invest or lend, and then the teams, and then there are country exposure limits that are there as well. So within that there are teams on the ground which basically generate business leads in terms of investment opportunities. They process that and they cook it, and that goes through a whole process of approval, multi-tiered, and ultimately each project, IFC, a large project has to go to the board. So it goes to in the form of a board paper to the board, where different countries members are represented, and they take a final decision to approve the investment. So that's how it works. It is target driven. It is country strategy driven. We have strategies for each country as to which sectors we have to invest in for maximum impact, etc. But at the end of the day, unlike IBRD, IFC is driven by the commercial viability. So we are not offering the sort of concessional loans or grants per se. We are basically doing commercial financing. So the whole idea for us is how to create a market and not to replace a market, not to sort of give grants. If we give grants, we are not creating a market. So we, and if at all any grants are used, we use it to correct certain market failures and then allow the markets to work with those grants.
What's the funding model for IFC? Where does the money come from?
So as I said, IFC initial capital 1956 was about $2 billion given to IFC, and then we were asked to go and run our business. At that time, it was quite a sort of an elite institution doing business. Mostly all the people were working out of Washington DC, where the headquarters are. So very few people so people used to fly in for deals from DC and discuss and then go back. And that model, as you want to grow, would not work. So then they sort of had to establish their business on the ground, and that's where I joined in Delhi, not in DC. So the initial capital was grown through profit over the years, and that's our basic capital base. And then we also, to lend, we also borrow through bonds in the international market. We have a better than AAA, international AAA. We have a AAA, international AAA standing. But we get better pricing than international AAA corporates do, because we are backed by our government countries. In case we need capital, they will come in and rescue us. So we have a better than AAA pricing on bonds. So we raise money there.
So Bhanu, what does your day-to-day life look like? Do you have to go into an office? Do you get to work remote? Or when you go into an office, do you guys work in a very hierarchical system, or is it very team-based approach? What does your day-to-day life look like?
So before COVID hit, it was a very regular job, like going to office and all that. So when COVID hit, all of us have changed, and IFC World Bank has changed massively. People now don't want to go back to office. So and they realize that work can be done by not going to office. So now, in fact, the World Bank wants us back, and they have brought in a policy that come for at least 4 days, and they've also giving us transport allowance to sort of help us incentivize ourselves to go back, etc. But anyway, so the short point is that we are required to go to office regularly. A lot of innovation actually happens around coffee machines, around meeting people in corridors, etc. So, and a lot of our work is innovation and thinking new concepts and getting them done. The other thing is client meetings are mostly in places where our government clients are. So we have to go to state capitals or even Delhi or anywhere else. So we have to travel, and that obviously face-to-face interactions are way more powerful with clients than the VCs and MS teams. So what it ends up today as on date, I think the other thing is that as I grew senior, my value add is more strategic, in the sense that I bring in all the government clients, I bring in the mandates. It comes more from my network and reputation and IFC's name and track record than from attending office or being there. So that, and sometimes also on the golf course, interactions and other things. But and then it is about just empowering the teams which are working. So bringing in new people, making them believe in their decision-making capacities, and increasing those capacities. And all of that can be done online. So I end up today being a master of my own time.
Very impressive.